Hi, welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Brennan. If you've been following along with us, you know that we have been going through a skirt series and we're about to wrap that up. In this segment, we've been doing a slightly fitted A-line skirt with a waistband and elastic in the back. And in today's video, we are going to do the final step, which is hemming it. So make sure you go to shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com, grab your pattern. Also check out the freebie pattern that's on there with an even simpler skirt, and let's get started. One thing that we are doing differently in this skirt than we did with the last one is we are measuring on the body to see how long the skirt needs to be in the front and also how long it's going to be on the back, because most people, that measurement is not exactly the same. There's an inch variation is very, very normal. Even much more than an inch variation is very, very normal. So what we're going to do is in the video that we've done earlier where we're actually taking our measurements, we took a measurement from the center waist to the length where we want the hem, and then do the same thing in the back. So make sure that you do that, and I'm going to show you how to use those measurements to find the hem on your skirt without necessarily having to try it on and mark it from there. All right, so in your pattern, it does tell you how to calculate where to put that hem and how much seam allowance to add from the center waist to the hem line. So go ahead and check and use your pattern for that. I know that our model's measurement in the front from the center waist to, like, I think she wanted it to be right around her knee, was 20 inches, and in the back was 21. So there's only an inch variation. That's going to be pretty easy. So what we're going to do is, this is the center front of our skirt. So I'm going to measure from the waistband, which is in this case, the waistband is hitting in the center waist. So we want to measure from there and mark where we want it to be. And you can use anything you need at this point. You can use a pencil, you can use a safety pin, you can use a straight pin, like anything that you can see to let you know where that mark is. And then we're gonna do the same thing in the back. All right, now with all the gathers in here, it can be a little bit tricky to find that center back. So what I like to do is I take the side seams where we did the French seams and put those together. There's your center. All right, in this case, there's really not a whole lot to trim off. I don't know if you can see my marks here, but we're very, very close to the end on both of these. So what I'm gonna do is right here on the side seam where there's a little bit of some extra fabric, I'm just gonna kind of smooth that out. I will show you how to mark it, and then we'll start hemming. So I personally like to hem the lining of the skirt first, just because if you're going to make a little mistake with the hem, the lining is the better place to do it. It's going to be more hidden. So I don't have to trim on this one, but if you did, what you would want to do is you definitely want the measurement from the center front and the center back to the hem. And it's also a good idea to go ahead and get it on the side seams too. So that way you can kind of trace around your curve. You can use a pencil and just kind of mark where you're going to cut the fabric off. So just remember to know where to trim. You're going to take your measurement plus your seam allowance, and then you can just kind of cut along that line. So in this case, we don't need to do any cutting or trimming. So I'm just going to use our seam gauge and press that hem line. You are going to go ahead and press the hem. So go ahead and get your ironing board, your iron and your ironing board out. Now, if you watched the previous segment that we did with the pull-on skirt with that free pattern, we're doing the exact same way to measure up from the hem. So we're gonna fold up twice so we can enclose that raw edge. So we're gonna use our seam gauge to measure how far up, and go ahead and give that a press. Once you've pressed a couple inches, it's going to be a lot easier. You can just kind of follow along, make sure you have a straight line, and use your seam gauge and check it every so often. A little tip, just something that I have found works easier for me, it's certainly not required. When you get to the side seams where the fabric is a little bit bulkier, I find it easier to measure a 1/2 inch on either side. And then you can use that to know where to press. Just kind of fold up and give it a very, very gentle tug, and the fabric will follow itself. And just keep working your way around. Got a little bit of bulk, so I'm just going to trim that. And from here, we're just gonna go around again and fold up one more time, enclosing that raw edge so it's nice, so you have a nice clean finish on the inside of your skirt. One thing I don't think that I mentioned earlier, make sure that you are folding this towards the wrong side of the lining. So a good way to look at that is make sure that you're folding it towards the same side that has the enclosed end of your French seam. And this second time around is typically much faster just because you've already measured. You're just kind of following along the line that you've already done. All right, now we have rolled up our hem and we've pressed it twice, so now we get to sew it down. One thing to watch for with your French seam, make sure that when you hem it down, it's going in the same direction as it does here at the top. When you're loading this on the machine, just put it under the foot and put it down. And I try to get the edge as close to the needle as I can and just sew all the way around. I did switch out to white thread for this part just so it would match the lining and it would kind of recede into the background. If you're feeling really adventurous, one thing you could do is you could keep the thread that you're using for the main fabric and use that on your lining, or even use one of the decorative stitches. I know I personally like to kind of have some fun with the lining, but not everybody does, so just do what you want. And now we're going to do the same thing to the outer part. All right, and just like with the lining, we're going to go through and fold it up one more time and press it again. Now, if you really want to, you can fold it up as you sew it and skip this round of pressing. But if you do that, you're going to want to press it again when you're done. I'm going to go ahead and do this now because I know myself, I can be kind of a lazy presser at times, which as a sewist, you really don't want to do that. You don't want to be a lazy presser. I have everything here. I might as well just do it now. Whether you are a garment sewer or a quilter or you sew anything, pressing is very important. You don't want to be a lazy presser. Now all that pressing is done, we're going to sew our final seam. From here, we're just going to do a straight stitch all the way around the hem of the skirt. Make sure that this section of the machine is clear, that there's no fabric that kind of snuck in, because you don't want to sew pieces together that you don't want to be together. And again, I am just sewing as close to the edge as I can get. Nothing too special here. And then when you get to the end, so I have my starting point here, I'm just going to overlap it a couple inches. And that functions as your back stitching. The last thing you want to do is check for any stray threads. And believe me, you will be finding stray threads. Probably for weeks, months, years. Every time you wear it, you'll find another stray thread. They have a bad habit of multiplying, I find. All right, congratulations, you are finished. So now you can go ahead and put it on. You can wear it. You have a nice, pretty skirt. All right, well, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for joining us here at Quilt Addicts Anonymous. Make sure you grab your pattern at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Make sure to download that free one as well. And happy quilting and happy garment sewing.